Good morning, everybody. It's a brisk, say 30, 29 degrees this morning. And I spent last night in that there. Sitting right now in front of, where is it? That there. Just a good little fire, getting everything warmed up from a cold night last night. Sipping on some instant coffee. Which really isn't bad. I really don't know what I want to talk about. There's been a lot of things that's been going on in my mind, and just a lot of things that's been going on in general within life. But I know one thing, and that the Father, He chose us to live in this day and age, to live in the last days. You know, He could have chose us to live 200 years ago, 1,000 years ago, whatever. That spoke. Whew. Tell you what, campfire smoke, man, it'll burn your eyes. Is it just every 5 minutes it seems like it just changes directions. That's alright though. Father wanted us to live in this day and age, and which means He's got a purpose for us. He's separating us out, calling us to be set apart, a set apart people, to be holy unto Him, the way David was. A little bit of history, and don't take my word on anything I say. Go out and study it for yourself. But a little history, the way I understand it, is the part of the priestly garb for those within the priesthood. They wore a plate on their forehead, and in it was inscribed, "Holy unto Yahweh," however you want to say it. It's the Father's name per the Hebrew language. But it was inscribed in Hebrew, "Holy unto Yahweh." And that's what He wants for us. See, I don't think that it's by coincidence that the mark of the beast would be on your right hand or your forehead. You know, some would say it symbolizes, oh well, it's in your thoughts and your actions. You know, your right hand being a hand of action. Typically, if you're right-handed. But that's what I would speculate it symbolizes. But they were marked holy, set apart. And that's what He wants for us. You know, because when we enter into the kingdom and we get our new name, and you know, even the same, the Father is going to mark the 144,000 on their foreheads. So He wants us to be set apart, to be holy unto Him. Repetitive. Where am I going? Basically say all that to say, what are you doing that sets you apart? What sets you apart from everybody else? I would submit to you that the only thing that really truly sets you apart from everybody else, every Christian out there in the world, would be your obedience to the Father and His commands. And see, everything that we do, everything that the Father desires from us is spurred out of obedience. See, it's impossible to please the Father without faith. But it's impossible to have faith without obedience. And same vice versa. It's impossible to obey unless you truly believe that the Father will follow through with His word. So again, if Yeshua said, "If you love me, obey my commands," then I would venture to say that that would be the defining marker that sets you apart. There are churches out there today, they'll say, "Oh, we don't have to obey the commands. Jesus did away with them. They were nailed to the cross," so on and so forth. You don't have to read very far to see that that's really not the case. Don't just take and hear me out right in this, because it's in love, but don't just take what any man of God behind the pulpit says. Don't just take their word for it. They may have good intentions, but it doesn't mean they're right. You go search it out for yourself. Search the Scripture and see if a matter is true, for righteousness' sake. Not to be right, but to find the righteousness within the matter. James, and I'll end with this, my battery's getting low. But James said, "You say you have faith, but you have no works. But I show my faith by my works." Faith being obedience, obedience being faith. Abraham was attributed righteousness. Why? Because of his faith, his faithfulness to a fault, in his obedience, willing to go up onto the mountain to sacrifice his son Isaac. And the Father said, no. See, the thing is, Abraham, even when he had that knife thrust high into the sky, ready to lay it down into to Isaac's heart, he kept listening, waiting for the Father to give another command, just waiting, hoping, praying. And then all of a sudden, what happens? He hears a ram in the thicket behind him. So he stops, turns around, and the Father says, "I provide my own sacrifice." And that's what Yeshua was. He was the ram in the thicket. That was all foreshadowing. But Abraham, because of those actions, he was attributed righteousness. His obedience. It is impossible to have faith without obedience, and it is impossible to believe God without faith. That's the type of obedience that sets you apart. So the Father's calling us again to be a set-apart people. So look into the matter, guys, and I think it's time to take it to the next level.